If living in China for 3 years has taught me one thing, it's that everybody has an opinion on China. And if some of my YouTube comments are anything to go by, it seems that people are really extremely one way or the other. But just like every country, things just aren't as simple as that. If I think about my home country, the UK, there are obviously things that I like, the food, the people, the culture, but there are also things that I don't like the food, the people, and the culture. And even if I don't agree with everything that happens there, it still doesn't make me any less proud of where I'm from. And this is the same in every country I've been to. There are obviously things that I love and hate. And that's just what makes traveling so amazing, because it gives you all these different stories to tell. Living here for such a long time has made me realize that there's things that I just love, and obviously there's some things that I dislike as well. But you know what? I wouldn't change it for the world, because perfection is boring. And China is anything but boring. I remember when I first moved here, I was completely blown away by how unique China is and unlike anywhere I'd been to before. Which brings me to my first pro, China's culture. China's culture has been developing on its own independently from the rest of the world for the past 5,000 years. And Chinese people love to share their culture with other people. Sometimes I feel like it can be a little bit misunderstood, so I'm really happy and feel very privileged that I've been able to come here and experience it for myself. It's also made me learn a lot about my own culture, because some things that I just thought were completely normal, my Chinese friends find really bizarre. Obviously, the language is completely different as well, and sometimes this can make it a little bit hard to travel. But as I've been here, I've noticed there's more English signs popping up, and also people are really friendly and they try and help you even if you don't speak the same language together, whether it's ordering in a restaurant or if you're trying to ask for directions. And obviously with the rise of technology, things like Google Translate, or if you have a device, this makes it so much easier now to travel. And this isn't necessarily a bad thing, because if you come here and you don't know the language, then this is an opportunity to learn a new language. So even though sometimes it can be difficult to travel around China, it also can be amazing. Travel. Can you remember when that was still possible? Well, when this is all over, you should come to China and travel it, because there are so many amazing places to visit. There are some places that I just never even heard of before I even moved here. There are obviously lots of tourist sites that bring people in, but there are so many off the beaten track places that I just can't wait to visit. But when it comes to travel, obviously there are a couple of cons. Firstly, never, ever, 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 ever travel on a public holiday in China. Okay, maybe that's a little bit strong, and if you live here and work here, then you kind of don't really have a choice. But if you can, try and avoid it, because it's crazy. If you have to travel, then maybe try and pick somewhere that's a little bit off the beaten path, like Inner Mongolia or the mountains in Qinghai, or just somewhere that might have less tourists. The other main travel con that I found is, how do I put this? The DISNEY-FICATIon of tourist sites here. So I've been to a lot of places which might be like a temple or something, and it's been made into kind of like a theme park, which I just personally find a little bit weird. There's KFC, there's Subway, there's loads of souvenir shops, and it just feels a bit not authentic, and I don't really like that. It kind of ruins it a little bit for me. Like if I go and climb a mountain, there's a path or an escalator or an elevator, and I wanted to go out into nature and experience the mountain by hiking up it. I get that it makes it a little bit more accessible for people, but for me personally, I just don't like this. I feel like it loses its authenticity, and it's a massive con for me. One thing that is undoubtedly a massive pro for me whilst traveling China is the high-speed trains. They are amazing. They're fast, they're reliable, they're comfortable. And if you compare them to a train back in the UK, they're just so much better. I wish I could say the same for flying in China though, as air travel in China is just so much different to train travel. I don't think I've ever been on a flight here that's taken off on time. But the government is trying to address this by investing in huge projects like the new Beijing Dashing Airport, which I haven't been to yet, but it looks incredible. And that's not the only piece of infrastructure that amazes me here in China. Things even like the Beijing Metro are amazing. They're so easy to use, they're really cheap, and it just makes traveling around the city super easy. And you know what? It certainly beats traveling by car. I'm sorry, China, but your traffic is mental. When I first moved to Beijing, everyone in Nanjing told me, oh, the traffic in Beijing is really bad. And I thought, it can't be that bad. I was wrong. It is that bad. There are so many people here driving cars and bikes and scooters and lorries, and it's just crazy. I'm so happy that I can't drive a car here because it would stress me out. And closely related to traffic is, of course, pollution. Now, this is the case in many big cities across the world. It's a public health issue. And in Beijing, at least, they seem to be trying to tackle it with different initiatives to stop the pollution. If you speak to somebody who has lived in Beijing for like 10 years, then undoubtedly it's got a lot better. For me, I don't find it that bad at the minute. I've said in different videos before that it's a bit like the weather. Some days are good and some days are bad. Luckily, it's not all the time. I feel like many people in the West just think that China is this grey, polluted country, when really it's just not like that at all. One, today it is such a beautiful day. And also, in every city that I visited in China, they have so many green spaces. It's amazing. One of my favorite things to do in China is visit the parks. They're just filled with the most interesting people. There's people that sing, dance, perform, play games. It's just such a nice place to be. It makes me feel really like fuzzy inside. I wish that it was a bit like this in the UK. If I saw somebody singing and dancing in the park, I would probably think that they're nuts. But here in China, it's just the thing to do, especially if you're like an older person. It's where they hang out, and it's just super nice to go to the park and people watch all day. And while we're on the topic of people watching, one thing that I have observed here is that chivalry is not dead. Young men often walk around carrying their girlfriend's handbags. Now, I'm not talking about a huge bag that's really heavy for her. I'm talking about a very girly handbag that they carry around for them. Also, I've noticed in a lot of older couples, the man will hook up a trailer to the back of his bike and he'll cycle his wife around on that trailer. Also, if you come here, you'll notice that there are lots of couples that wear matching outfits. Call me old-fashioned, but I love a bit of chivalry. One thing I don't really like here is how much everybody is glued to their phones. Now, this might be the same in the UK now. Obviously, technology's advanced a lot since I last lived there, but I just really noticed it when I moved to China. I find it really sad to see when I'm out for dinner with my partner that other people out for dinner just aren't even speaking to each other and they're just playing on their phone. For me, I just think, why even bother going out if you're not going to talk to each other? And I find that a little bit sad. In fairness, annoying as this is, that everybody's addicted to their phone, China is light years ahead of everybody when it comes to mobile payments and the use of things being on the phone. People use the phone as cash, as your bike app, your taxi app. Basically, your phone is your life, which is amazing. But obviously, if you lose your phone or you get it stolen like I did a few months ago, then you're kind of screwed. Whew, so that's been quite a lot of points. How many points has that been?
Sorry, I've not been counting.
Whew, okay, that's been quite a lot of pros and cons. How many has it been?
7 pros and 7 cons.
Okay, I think maybe we could wrap it up there, but before I go, let me tell you my biggest pro about living in China. If you've watched any of my videos, then you can probably guess what this is. Drumroll please. The food. So don't believe anybody that tells you Chinese food in Western countries is good, because it isn't. When I came to China, the food absolutely blew me away, and I love that it's so diverse, and if you go to a different region in China, then each of them have their own culinary delights. It's just amazing. One eensy little tiny con about food here in China though is the Western food can sometimes be a little bit questionable. Why? And sometimes, yeah, I'll just leave it at questionable. You can make your own mind up. Here in Beijing, don't get me wrong, it's amazing. There's loads of different options, but maybe in smaller cities, I would kind of just maybe avoid it. But if you've come to live in China, then you're not here to eat loads of Western food. You're here to experience all the amazing Chinese food. So, you know, you don't really want that durian pizza anyway. On that note, I'm gonna say goodbye to you guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give me a big thumbs up, leave me a comment, and let me know if you agree with my points or not. If you don't already subscribe to my channel, then what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button and the bell notification to stay up to date with all of my latest content. I'll see you next time.